Zach with Wingard Wearables. You're a special person because you're one of 12 people that's going to sit through this video to the end. And today's topic is why bronze? Why did we use bronze for the Empress Tomahawks? We get that question a number of times. So this video we're going to address it. Trying to think, we've upgraded our sound. We got microphone, just as a little update on the quality control. But we've really let it down here with the temperature. It's 84, 85 degrees outside. I'm sweaty. I forgot to shave my head. So we're going to be sweating while talking about sponton tomahawks. Now, the Empress Tomahawk is our modern everyday carry interpretation of the historic battle-proven sponton tomahawk. And we use bronze for the tomahawk head. We did not start that way. Initially, we pursued it with steel, and people, asking us why bronze. Well, really, as we went further and further pursuing this as a product line, we started asking ourselves why steel, and that brings up something interesting. The other day I was in my workshop, I was listening to the Knife Junkie podcast. I like to listen to podcasts instead of music because it keeps me in a more thoughtful, focused mood. And I was listening to Bob DeMarco interview Jason Knight. He is one of the judges on Forged in Fire, the one with the big black beard who wears the kilt. I'm going to link to that interview below in the comments section, but that interview was interesting in a couple of ways. First, Jason Knight talked up bronze being superior to steel in some ways, and the other was Jason brought up the point that the most important question you should ask yourself as a maker is why? Why am I doing things this way? So when people ask why bronze, eventually we figured out why are we using steel with this application. Now, steel is superior to bronze in many, many applications. But they're like one of the hot steels right now with knife makers, 80 CRV. Just because 80 CRV is a great knife steel does not mean it is great in other applications. It would make for a terrible paperclip. Paperclips need to be cheap, malleable. That's why they're made of really soft, I think it's steel is what they make them with. I don't know. Someone fact check me. They're not made from 80 CRV high quality knife steel. So when you choose a material, there are usually a range of material properties that are applicable to a specific design application. And for us, we're designing a sponton tomahawk. That's a very specialized, historic, battle-proven weapon that's designed to be against flesh and bone. And I started researching sponton tomahawks, and I was surprised to learn that sponton tomahawks were all made with wrought iron, hand-forged wrought iron on the frontier. There are a few exceptions. There are some that were cast from brass and then had like a metal edge put in them. But almost all of them were hand-forged wrought iron, and they did not come to an edge. So if you go Google search people making sponton tomahawks today, they usually make this big kite-shaped thing or bullet-shaped blade that is steel, and it comes to a sharpened edge. Well, that's not how historic sponton tomahawks were done. Now, I do not have a historic reproduction sponton tomahawk, but I do have this. This was a Jack Vargo historic reproduction of a spike tomahawk that was, he called a British leaf blade. It was believed to be made by a British associated blacksmith. It features this flat blade of a spike, but it's not a true blade. This actually comes to no edge. And he was my mentor, and he told me that all the spike tomahawks you see that have that look like blades, some of them have dagger blades, some of them have leaf blades, and even the sponton tomahawks, none of them come to an edge. They're basically flattened spikes that come to either a butter knife-like edge or like a spoon-like edge, like a tablespoon. And that is plenty fine for when you swing this, and it is still going to have enough high-pressure concentration on the tip, because it's a spike, to bury to the handle through leather, fabric, flesh, and bone. So sponton tomahawks They were made of wrought iron, which is not a very hard material. They did not need to make them out of steel. They did not need to hold an edge. And really, when you look at the design, the profile of spike tomahawks, whether they were sort of bullet-shaped or kite-shaped, they were all nominally like dagger-shaped flat spikes. They are not good utility chopping blades. They're not something you're going to use to gather firewood, kindling, and that sort of thing. They were very specialized for burying into an opponent's head or body. So the battle-proven spontoon tomahawks had no need for steel and no need for an edge. So when we started pursuing the Empress Tomahawk, we started down the road of having these hand forged, and this was actually the first one we got hand forged. It looks extremely close to our design today. It looks fantastic. But because it was made of a hardened spring steel, if you struck something with the tip that you shouldn't, the tip being overloaded would chip because it's brittle. Steel is a much higher hardness than bronze, but steel, when it mechanically fails, it's more prone to brittle fracture than ductile bending like bronze is. And bronze, if it bends, it can be straightened or touched up with a file very quickly, but tool steel, you're not going to do that with. But anyway, we had this. It was hand-forged. It was great. So we had other versions, hand-forged. Not even other versions. They were attempted to be replications, and they were off on design function details and also on the visual appearance. The Empress Tomahawk looks like this nice clean arc. We'll show you a final version. This one's available, by the way. It's got this nice arc here. But really, it's the intersection. That clean, simple look up from the side is the intersection of three complex surfaces. You've got this surface here, which is rounded. You got this surface here that is flat. You've got this curved surface. You got the spike curving this way. And we found that when you were trying to hand forge those three complex surfaces, when they intersected, sometimes they looked perfect. Other times, they did not. I mean, there's a huge difference between these two in both length of the spikes and visual appearance, cleanness of appearance. And it's very important when you have a weapon that's going to serve as a sidearm for it to not only have excellent function, but also to have character and look beautiful. I mean, this is something you're going to be wearing with you and trusting in your life. But it should, if possible, be as desirable to look at as possible, look beautiful and that sort of thing. And bronze really knocks it out of the park compared to steel. This is a bronze Empress head before it's patinaed versus after. And you can wear the patina off if you want. It will wear with character anyway and look great, but you can take steel wool and rub it to get more of the bronze accent to come out. But what we discovered is when we attempted to hand forge these, there would be a significant failure rate in getting these made that way. And that would drive up the cost. So if we had a hand forged steel Empress Tomahawk, it would probably be north of $400. And Wingard Wearables were all about making American-made weapons as accessible as possible. And bronze could be sand casted into the exact shape we desired, and then we could do all the work to get the cast marks off and hand file this edge and hand sharpen that edge, get it patinaed and hung, and we can sell this for the current price is $225 USD. Comes with concealed carry system and free US shipping. That's a pretty darn good deal. Selling the same function but in steel for north of $400. Steel doesn't buy you anything in this application. This bronze tomahawk head has been proven to bury into flesh and bone, extract very easily. The talon blade buries in, acts like a meat hook on a stick. This has been tested in all kinds of soft target media. It is not a breaching tomahawk. You're never going to use this to break open a cinder block. It weighs about an ounce more than a smartphone. You're just never going to generate the impact momentum to be efficient at wood chopping or busting cinder blocks, and the blade is never made even for that design. So really bronze, are the high strength silicon bronze that we use, which is much higher strength than the historic Bronze Age weapons, really is just a fantastic material for this application. It allows us to provide the Empress Tomahawk design to you at a better price. There are other benefits to bronze too. It is much easier to repair. So if you strike something you shouldn't and this tip bends, you can put it in a vise and straighten it. If the tip does break off, you can touch it up with a file, and the tip, when it does break, if it does break, it's just a little bit here, and it's touched up, reprofiled to pointiness in a file with just a few file strokes. This talon blade is a knife-like edge. Bronze does not hold an edge like steel, but bronze is literally seconds of sharpening to get it sharpened back up. And again, for a weapon application, when you go in for the chop and then transition to, tearing an opponent down, it's a curved spike. It's not for percussive impact. It's to meet hook, and that sharpened edge does increase the size of the hole you make in your opponent. But this is not really meant for, whittling wood and that sort of thing. That's just not what the blade shape is for. It's for tearing through fabric and flesh. And it does the job. So yeah, we're really happy with these. The other benefit of bronze is it's corrosion proof. I remember several summers ago there were, 3 shark attacks on the Outer Banks in a month, and it had a big impact with the news media hysteria over it in people not getting in the water. And we love going to the Outer Banks once every summer. I'm looking forward to it, the trip this year. But yeah, even though the probability of getting eaten alive was very low, I did have I think I used a cold steel. It was an AUS 8 steel mini tack. I'm trying to remember the steel that was used. I used that as a cheap fixed blade to have in my swimming trunks. This was years before we had the Empress Tomahawk developed, and it rusted within a day. But it was a cheap steel, so I could afford that. I washed it off the best I could with water. But even within a day, with a modern knife steel, it rusted very quickly. I believe that was a rust-resistant steel used for that. Someone will fact-check me and tell me I'm wrong in comments if you want. But when we went with bronze on the Empress Tomahawk, and this is my beater Empress. This was a Gen 1. Oh, my gosh. What are you doing? I don't know can you see Tater in this? Tater Tot the cat is burrowing under our tomahawk mat here. Terrible. I thought it would be too hot for them to get bad, because it's miserable hot in here right now. It's, 85 degrees. All right, so back to this. This Empress Tomahawk in my hands right now is the first Empress Tomahawk I put together, and this was my beater Empress. I've clobbered this against cinder block to prove that I could straighten out the spike. And I have tucked this and worn this in my swimming trunks, many, many, many hours. The Empress Tomahawk is tucked in my swimming trunks. I get in the water, I bob in the beach. The camera is shaking because the cat is crawling on our fixture. What a jerk. Anyway, so this very Empress Tomahawk has been in the water a lot. And the hickory handle is treated to be highly water resistant, and the bronze, of course, has no corrosion. It cannot corrode. So it's been in the water, I don't know how many hours, like probably over 20 hours over the years, just going in and out of the water. The wedges are hickory as well, same with the handles, so they naturally shrink and expand and sink, and it stays tight. It's a great option for tucking into your swimming trunks, concealed carry, and enjoying a day at the beach. What time are we at of the video right now? You know what? I'm going to do it. It's 14 and a half, and you've stuck around a lot. We're going to talk about the Bronze Age. All right? So we've explained why we went with bronze with the Empress, but bronze is a battle-proven material. The Bronze Age, there were empires that were built on blood that was spilled with bronze blades. And people have a misunderstanding that the Bronze Age went to the Iron Age, and that must mean that the iron was superior to bronze in performance. That is not really true. First, bronze weapons continued to be used into the Middle Ages in the form of maces. This is a mace from Todd's stuff. I may link to his store below. I love this thing. Bronze was pushed away for iron for economic reasons. That's at least the best of our understanding. With bronze, you need a trade network. In the ancient world, when you didn't have Amazon Prime to ship this stuff to you, you needed to trade for copper and tin to get access to make bronze. And bronze could be melted and casted at a fraction of the fuel and heat required that you needed for wrought iron. But iron ore was very accessible, and trees were everywhere in the ancient world. You had much lower population density. So even though iron required a lot more heat, a lot more fuel to get it up to temperature to forge it, iron ore was very common and accessible. So as the process to work iron was discovered, iron began to replace bronze, even though a lot of the iron weapons did not have the hardness and the strength of higher-end bronze weapons. Iron, when it failed brittly due to forge flaw or just overload, bronze blades tended to break, whereas, not bronze blades, iron blades tended to break. Bronze blades tended to bend and could be cold worked and repaired. It was the expense of bronze and the trade network that broke down that led to the Bronze Age coming to an end. Now, iron accidentally would get forged into steel from time to time and have truly superior properties to bronze. And eventually into the Middle Ages, people began to forge steel purposely and get longer, stiffer weapons. But by that time, bronze had been long abandoned for economic reasons in favor of iron, except for maces. These were much simpler to get cast. They're complex in shape, so these were much more affordable out of bronze than out of other metals like iron or steel. I'm trying to think of anything else. What time are we at now? You think it was good? She smiles and nods. The wife approves. Okay, so you're a special person. You are one of 12 people to have watched it. Please share it with a friend so there'll be 13 people that watched it. I'm really sweaty right now. I got to cool off. But thank you very much, and share it with a friend. And remember to be edgy.